Have you ever wondered what might awaken when a lie is left to rot too long beneath the floorboards of memory? When a secret festers through generations, it does not vanish, it breeds, patient as mold in the dark, waiting for the next inheritor to draw breath and carry its poison forward. You may think walls can keep such ghosts contained, that sealed documents or respectable portraits could silence what screams beneath the skin of a house. But when guilt is built into the very beams, when blood once soaked into the earth upon which a home stands, the house remembers, even if its owner refuses to. Edward Lorne had never been the kind of man to believe in hauntings. He prided himself on being practical, a restorer of old estates who knew how to scrub mildew from stone and coax stubborn structures back to life. Yet there was something about Greystone Hollow that resisted renewal. The mansion sat at the edge of the Massachusetts woods, gray as its name, crouched beneath a canopy of twisted oaks that seemed to lean inward, as if listening. The property had belonged to his late uncle, a man whispered to have died guilty, though no one could say of what. When Edward inherited it, he considered it an opportunity, until he found the journal. The book was hidden behind a false panel in the study, its pages brittle. Written in a spidery hand, the entries spoke of a bargain, of retribution delayed. He closed it, disturbed by the suggestion that the house itself had once been bought with something more than money. At first, the oddities were trivial. A door would creak open, though he swore he'd latched it.
They are still here.
The fireplace exhaled ashes in the night.
Forgiven.
The air carried a faint, metallic tang, like the smell of old coins or dried blood. Edward blamed the damp, yet an unease gnawed at him. He caught himself avoiding mirrors. The reflections seemed slightly delayed, his face less his own.
For years.
He dismissed these lapses as fatigue, madness. The final pages told of a tragedy buried in 1891, when the estate's original caretaker and his family met an unfortunate end after a dispute with Edward's ancestor. The entry ended abruptly, blotched with what might have been ink or something darker. Edward's pulse quickened. He recalled local rumors that the Hollow's foundation had been poured over the ruins of an older farmhouse, raised in fire. The rational mind resisted, but another, quieter part of him knew. His bloodline was tied to that act. The bargain his uncle mentioned. Nights grew longer, stranger. Footsteps circled his bed. Once, half asleep, he felt a cold hand graze his ankle. He bolted upright, but saw only the curtains stirring. Objects moved subtly between rooms. His tools vanished from the table, reappeared in the cellar where he'd never placed them. The cellar itself seemed to breathe, the air thick with a sound like wet soil shifting. When he opened the door one evening, a gust of fetid air met him, heavy with decay, and beneath it, the faint sound of weeping. He retreated, bolting the door, but the scent followed him up the stairs like an accusation. Sleep fled entirely. He kept hearing the faint whisper of his own name. Sometimes it came from behind him, sometimes from inside his skull. The voice was small, childlike, and unbearably sad. He began drinking heavily to silence it. The liquor dulled the edges but left the guilt sharper. In the mirror, his reflection seemed thinner each day, his eyes sunken, as though the house were leeching him. The journal drew him back again and again. Between lines he'd missed before, faint impressions appeared under candlelight, sentences etched by another hand. They are still here. The debt is not forgiven. Edward tried to leave once. He packed his car at dawn. But as he drove down the long gravel path, the mist grew so dense he could not see the road. The engine died mid-turn. When he stepped out, he realized he'd circled back. The soil inside turned and slick. The whisper rose again, joined by another, then another, until the chamber vibrated with voices layered like a choir of despair. Shapes emerged, faint outlines of faces pressing against the damp earth, mouths moving soundlessly.
It's the wood.
A small skeletal hand reached outward, fingertips gleaming with dark moisture. Edward stumbled back, his candle sputtering. The ground pulsed, as if something beneath struggled to rise. Then he saw them clearly. A woman and 2 children, their forms translucent yet detailed. The mother's face twisted not in rage, but sorrow. Her eyes met his, and the word formed on her lips. "Why?" he screamed, retreating up the stairs. But the house answered with a low groan, every beam vibrating. Portraits crashed from the walls, glass shattering, doors slammed open and shut in a frenzy. He barricaded himself in the study, shaking. The journal lay on the desk, fluttering though there was no wind. Pages turned on their own until they stopped at a final blank leaf, upon which new words bled through, letter by letter. Confess, or join them. The scent of lilies filled the room, cloying, unbearable. He wrote feverishly, pen scratching across the page, confessing every sin he knew of the family line, land stolen, debts unpaid, men ruined. The words poured until his hand cramped, yet the whisper persisted. Not enough. He realized the confession they demanded was not written, but lived. Madness tightened around him like a vice. He tore at his shirt, gasping for air, feeling as though invisible hands were dragging him downward. The floor beneath his chair creaked, splintered, and he glimpsed movement beneath the planks, fingers clawing upward from the dark. By dawn, neighbors noticed smoke rising from Greystone Hollow. When authorities arrived, the house was reduced to a blackened shell. In the ruins of the study, they found Edward's remains seated at the desk, the journal clutched to his chest. His expression was one of ecstasy and horror intertwined, as though in death he had seen both damnation and release. The fires alone, or caught a glimpse of movement in the mirror behind you. Perhaps something in your own blood remembers what it owes. The past does not forgive, it only waits. Tell your story before the house does it for you. Confess before the floorboards whisper your name. And if tonight, as you drift toward sleep, you hear 3 faint knocks at the edge of hearing, do not answer. Some debts are better left unpaid. Use arrow up and arrow down to select a turn, enter to jump to it, and escape to return to the chat.